Oh, back into session, and we'll start out with Chris. Take the roll, please.
Councilmember Myers.
Here.
Councilmember Berg.
Here.
Councilmember Rowe. Councilmember Stevens.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Delby.
Here. And once again, I'll turn it over to Mr. Bill Mulder of Mulder & Associates. Mr. Mulder, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. As the council is aware, this morning there's been 3 interview panels interviewing the candidates for this position. The mayor and council was one group. The department directors was a second group, and a community group that the mayor had invited to participate and give us their opinion. At this stage, the mayor and council are the ones that have the most information. What you'll hear from the representatives of those other 2 groups is their impressions of the candidate to help you get a broader picture to understand who you might select. And representing the citizen group is Marlene Poff and Scott Algren, and I'll ask them to come forward.
Okay. Good morning and welcome, and you both two have the floor.
Thanks. Good morning. And thank you very much for allowing us to be a part of the process. It's been an interesting morning. As you can tell, we were in a lot of discussions, so we kept you just a little bit, but it was very, very good. So we've just kind of done some pros and cons, and Scott and I have our lists here. And then if anyone else wants to add, if you want to hear from them, we can do that as well. So we're going to start with Phil, and some things that we saw on pros with him. We think that he's very invested in his family being part of this community. He seemed to be very service driven, meaning that that there was a focus on the services that the city would provide, and a tie that the resources should tie to those services. We thought he knew much about many parts of city government and the job, that he came from a Main Street community, that he has good communication skills, and also good perception of different communications. Both candidates kind of talked about the positive and negative of social media and that kind of thing. So we thought they had a good grasp around that. On maybe the cons, we kind of hate to do that, pros and cons, but you have to look at that when interviewing. We believe there might be a bit of a learning curve, maybe a larger learning curve for him coming from a smaller community into a community the size of Ottumwa. And maybe along with that, a little bit of concern about depth of experience, and that may have been related to that size of community. Do you have anything else to add for him?
In our discussions this morning, I think a few things that stood out with Mr. Roth is certainly, I think, his focus on finances. Specifically, very aware that there's going to be a lot of no's that need to be said, especially when it comes to budget times. And that, I think, certainly was a strength in his background. Something else I think that we picked up on, certainly aware that he works for the council, understands our form of government, a sense of humility, a willingness to serve, and certainly active in the community.
And then if we move on to the second candidate, again, kind of our list of here are the positives, here are some maybe concerns. We think that Joe has experience. So he has, albeit a short period of time in his current position, he has made that shift from a smaller community into one almost exactly the size of Ottumwa. So he talked about how that transition takes place and some of the things that he has learned in that transition. I think he believes he also has some additional learning to do because he's only been there a little over a year maybe. But we think he has made that transition. And so it likely would be a fairly easy transition. He also has worked in Southern Iowa and loves Southern Iowa. He was at a community right down the highway from us. And so those are really the biggest things, and has a lot of knowledge, I think, about all the parts and pieces of the job of city administrator. There was a little question about the fact that he has moved kind of rapidly from one job to another. And there's always mixed opinion about that. You know, sometimes people see that as someone really just being ambitious and moving up, and other people see that as maybe not staying in one place enough to be committed. I don't think we had necessarily a strong opinion about that one way or the other, but there was a comment about that. Maybe just not quite as much experience in the interaction with people, maybe that the first candidate had. What else?
Yeah, I think the core of our discussion with Mr. Gah really was, I think, how committed being our community, being only looking for a job after 14 months in Dickinson. But at the same time, I think we also understand it's getting him closer to family and bringing him back to Iowa, which we know, I think, was important to him. So there's mixed feelings on that. Yeah, I mean, I think that really summarizes it. I guess one question we had for you as a council is, I guess, are there specific questions that you maybe had for us that maybe we can share from our observations with all of us to answer any questions you might have?
Are there any questions by the council for the community group representatives? Councilmember Myers, nothing?
And then I think maybe just make sure that our colleagues, that we
Yeah.
captured everything. Okay.
Did you? Okay, well, Councilmember Berg.
I thought I was going to have questions, but I thought the questions I was going to ask you pretty much summarized. Okay. So thank you. And thank you all for spending your Saturday morning serving the community and helping us through this process.
Yes, definitely. And thank you for being honest and giving us a better, clear picture of what we're dealing with here. So thanks again for your time. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you. We need it. Yes.
The second panel was made up of department directors, and we want to get their input, their ability to advise you of what their perception is would be working for one of these two candidates. So it's a little bit different perspective to help you come to a conclusion. Representing the department directors is Kayla Mulder.
Good morning, Kayla.
Good morning.
You have the floor.
Thank you. Hi, Mayor and Council. I would actually say that our staff meeting is much like what the community members were saying. So I will just mention pros and cons for each candidate as well. First, I'd like to say that we were pretty split evenly between each candidate, and we all said that we would like to work for both. First, I'll talk about Mr. Rath. The pros were, again, the family and the community involvement with the children would be great with our community. And, we felt that he would want to be here for a longer period of time. And the cons, again, was his experience with a community our size. And then for Mr. Gah, the pros that we would like to mention was kind of his TIF understanding and how that works between the city and other community partners and, the county and school districts. He understood that very well. And his ability to bridge between the council and the staff. We felt that he had a lot of great experience with that. And again, his cons were the career-minded and longevityness of him serving the city of Ottumwa. So, do you guys have any questions for me?
Any questions for Kayla?
Kayla, excuse me, but
Yes.
what was the first comment you made on the con for Mr. Gaw?
The career-minded and longevityness for the city, how long he would be here.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Did your group raise any questions about personnel management?
Yes, we talked about what their management is like, micromanaging versus, the management style for department heads versus council versus other employees that aren't department heads.
Was there any feeling on which candidate had a better grasp of that, management style wise?
Right. I don't think that either one of them addressed it exactly how every member in the room wanted him to address it. But I think that they both addressed it in a okay way.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, well, thank you to staff and thank you, Kayla, for representing them. Appreciate
guys.
that input very much. Okay. Mr. Mueller, I'll have you come back up for a final comment.
Mayor and Council, that concludes the amount of information we can supply you. You have resumes, you have background information, you have responses to essays. I can assure you that the preliminary background investigation we've done on both of these candidates is very positive. The one you select, we'll do a little more research, but there is no red flags anywhere in anybody's background. And now it's in your hands.
Alrighty, well, thank you very much for the work you've done for us too. We'll take it from here. And at this time, without any further comment or questions, seeing none, we'll go ahead and recess into closed session to deliberate. We appreciate the public's attendance and thank you again. Time is 11:42.